It's being reported in the news that actor-comedian Bob Saget just died January 9th, 2022. And in this video, I want to talk about how Bob Saget connects with the number 34, starting with the Gematria value. If we use the keypad cipher of Gematria, the name Bob Saget equals 34. I've talked about this cipher many times. The keypad cipher represents the alphanumeric buttons on your telephone. So the name Bob Saget has a Gematria value of 34. It just so happens that Bob Saget died a span of 34 weeks from his last birthday. A span meaning including the ending date. So his birthday is May 17th. So if we look at last year's birthday going forward to his death day, January 9th this year, it's a span of 34 weeks. Now 34 is a very important number. It's what's known as a Fibonacci number. We'll probably get into that a little bit more later in the video. But anyway, I think it's fair to say that Bob Saget is probably most known for his role in the television show Full House. So I want to talk about Bob Saget and a couple of his co-stars and how they connect with 34 as well. Now, if we use the very first episode of Full House, the premiere date, when the show first aired, and go forward to Bob Saget's birthday the following year, that was 34 weeks, not including the ending date. So, first ever episode of Full House aired on September 22nd, 1987. If we go forward to Bob Saget's birthday the following year, that was 34 weeks. By the way, Bob Saget was born May 17th. And again, that was 34 weeks after the premiere of Full House. Now let's talk about how this connects with Dave Coulier. Two of his co-stars, John Stamos and Dave Coulier, connect with this 34, and I'll show you how. But if you don't know this show, the basic premise is that Bob Saget plays a character who lost his wife. She died, and he has to raise his daughters. He enlists the help of his brother-in-law and his very good friend, played by John Stamos and Dave Coulier. I think that's how you pronounce it, Coulier, but either way, it doesn't matter the pronunciation. That's the trio that help to raise these children. From the beginning of the show, of course, they introduce more characters later. But anyway, from John Stamos' birthday until Dave Coulier's birthday is a span of 34 days. John Stamos was born August 19th. Dave Coulier's birthday is September 21st. So from John Stamos' birthday until Dave Coulier's birthday, span of 34 days. I think it's interesting that the very first episode of Full House aired the day after Dave Coulier's birthday. So that being said, what we just looked at, it's no surprise that if we use John Stamos' birthday, the year that Full House first aired, and go forward to the premiere, the very first episode of Full House, that was 34 days, not including the ending date. You can call this one a coincidence if you like, or call it a stretch, but Bob Saget died about 34 years after the first episode of Full House. Not exactly 34, it was 34 and change. But yeah, from the very first episode of Full House, going forward to the death of one of its main stars was 34 years, plus a little bit more. 34 connects again. Now, this next slide, I think I put the wrong year, but it doesn't matter. Typically, right? From Dave Coulier's birthday, going forward to Bob Saget's birthday the following year is 34 weeks. That's typically, leap year will throw that off by a day. But yeah, Dave Coulier's birthday to Bob Saget's birthday is typically 34 weeks. And as I said before, the first ever episode of Full House aired the day after Dave Coulier's birthday. So that being said, it only makes sense that from the first episode of Full House to Bob Saget's birthday the following year was 34 weeks, not including the ending date. That was 34 weeks. And I don't think I mentioned this yet, but Bob Saget was born on a day with 34 date numerology, which I'll show, and the final episode of Full House aired on a day with 34 date numerology as well. So for this, we have to use the individual digits of the date and add them together to get the date numerology. So Bob Saget was born May 17th, 1956. Add the individual digits of that date. 5 plus 1 plus 7 plus 1 plus 9 plus 5 plus 6. That's 34. So again, Bob Saget was born on a day with 34 date numerology. Look off to the right, you can see full episode, the final episode, aired May 23rd, 1995. Add the individual digits of that date. 5 plus 2 plus 3 plus 1 plus 9 plus 9 plus 5 equals 34. In other words, the final episode of Full House aired on a day with 34 date numerology. As I said before, 34 is what's known as a Fibonacci number. If you look at the Fibonacci sequence, don't include the 0. 34 is the 9th number in that sequence. So, in other words, 34 is the 9th Fibonacci number. Remember, Bob Saget died on the 9th day of this year. Bob Saget died January 9th this year. It's the 9th day of the year. He was in a sitcom, not just Full House. He was also in a sitcom called How I Met Your Mother, which aired for 9 seasons. But what's funny about this is that the day that Bob Saget died, I'm talking mere hours before the news came out, or before I heard the news, I was watching Hulu, and I saw this commercial for an upcoming show called How I Met Your Father. So this show is, I guess you could call a sequel. It's definitely connected with How I Met Your Mother. And if you don't know the story, the basic premise of How I Met Your Mother was that Bob Saget, he's the narrator. He plays the character Ted Mosby in the future. And he's talking to his children, telling them the story about how he met their mother, but the story takes forever. Like, you're not even introduced to the mother until towards the very end of the series. I'll leave something in the description box, a couple of links. This is a show that plays with numbers. One episode in particular, I think it's called Bad News. I'll leave a link for a video with the breakdown. They have like a countdown until the bad news. You'll see if you click the link. But anyways, all this stuff about 9, How I Met Your Mother aired for 9 seasons. And then Bob Saget died on the 9th day of the year. And it just so happens that 9 days later is the first episode of the sequel, How I Met Your Father. I cannot label that a mere coincidence. Absolutely not. Anyway, I'll probably leave it there. Just remember that the 9th Fibonacci number is 34. Yeah, and this video is basically about how Bob Saget connects with 34, not just with the Gematria, but many other ways. You can see the 34 manifests. There's plenty of other numbers too. Gematria decoders are talking about this, and they're using different numbers. This is just one little concrete pattern I picked up. Bob Saget, 34.